It was 2 years ago. The day I witnessed my parents get taken from our home. Tied up, thrown into the trunk of a car, and taken to the outskirts of town, where they were shot and killed, after being tortured within inches of their lives. I was at my best friend's house. I wasn't even there, and I watched every second of it, up until their last breath. And in that final moment, I saw through my parents' eyes, as the bullet took the last grips of life from them. I never saw the killer's face, but that wasn't the last time I had seen him. Two weeks later, I was in bed, staring at the ceiling. Suddenly, my vision began to blur, and instantly cut to darkness. It wasn't completely dark. There was a small column of light, a few inches in front of me. The light was coming from beneath the door. Then a shadow passed across the door, and the light shut off with a click. It took a while for my eyesight, if it was mine, to adjust to the darkness. The door slowly gets closer as I walk towards it. A hand, not my own, reaches out to the doorknob and turns it slowly, without making a sound. And there she was. She was laying down, facing the wall, with her back to the door, just drifting into the clutches of sleep. Then I see her. In the other hand, the killer holds a gel. It begins to creep up behind the girl. Now at the edge of the bed, he stares at her for a moment, gently tucking her hair behind her ear. Then he suddenly turns her over, with a violent pull. Covering her mouth quickly before she could let out a scream, he raises the trap and plunges it down towards her face. In her last moments, I see the spinning point of a gel from my vision. I wake up suddenly with a start and a really cold sweat. The fan still spinning above my head. I didn't fall asleep that night. I stayed up, wondering if it had been a bad dream or that I was just tired and my mind was messing with me. No, this was all too real. The next morning, I went downstairs for breakfast. I pulled myself a bowl of cinnamon toast crunch and turned on the TV. The news was on. The last thing my parents were watching the night they were killed. The headline was murder. Girl stabbed to death with power drill. The man also reported that her eyes had been drilled out of her skull. I turned off the TV when they switched over to the weatherman. I couldn't move. I dropped my spoon, and I had spilled cereal and milk all over the floor. I just couldn't believe it. What I just heard. What I witnessed last night. It was all real. The next month, I stayed at my friend's house, because without parents, I didn't have a job or money to pay for food or a house, so they made me leave. I didn't want to go to an orphanage, so I stayed at my friend's house. My friend's name was Lucas, and he always had a thing for collecting the bones of animals and creating these bizarre creatures with 3 heads and wings, or a ridiculous amount of arms or something. I never questioned his strange passion, though. I just learned to accept it. And we were very good friends, but I didn't want to tell him about these visions I'd been having. I'd called them visions for a while now, but I don't feel like that's the proper word. to describe such things. Lucas and I had gone outside for a walk one evening, and we went to one of those weird antique stores where they sell strange stuff like animal bones and mummified body parts and other creepy stuff that makes your skin crawl. He was ready for his next big thing. He wanted to create a creature with a bunch of eyeballs on it that had a large barrel-like body, eyes all over it, and 8 legs. I was just doing some of these kinds of things, so I told him to have fun, and I explored the store. I had a very unusual feeling in this store, like I was being watched. But I just blew it off, seeing as there was a lot of creepy old antiques and stuff. The store seemed much larger inside than it did from the outside, which was also strange. I followed a long hallway with the eerie old paintings and photographs, and I entered into another room, out back. There was only one thing in the room, a mirror. Confused, I walked towards the mirror and stared into it. I began to feel strange. I feel as if I'm staring out from inside of this mirror at myself, instead of just looking at myself in the mirror. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a silhouette of a man appeared behind me. I instantly recognised the outfit and stature of the man. It's the killer. I turn around, and Lucas is standing there with his jar of pig eyes looking at me like I'm a crazy person.
What are you doing, silly?
Oh, nothing.
Let's get out of here. I'm so excited to get started on this thing.
The next day, Lucas was upstairs in the attic working on his new creature. That's where he loves to work. And he keeps all his creatures up there as not to freak out any guests. Plus his mom. She doesn't want people to think her son is a freak or something. I was still laying in bed, in the guest bedroom. I only got about 2 hours sleep last night. I had another vision of a murder. It was 4 a.m. on the clock in the room of this young boy. He was fast asleep in his bed. The first thing I saw was the rusty corkscrew in the man's hand as he stared at the clock. The clock had just struck 4 when he turned to the boy in his slumber. He walked over to the bed, but this time something was different about the vision. I could actually hear this man's breathing. He starts singing a lullaby to the sleeping boy as he walks over to his bed. The boy was laying on his stomach, and the man went over and gave him a gentle pat on the head. What comes next is almost too gruesome for me to speak aloud, but I will tell you anyway. First, the man gently tapes the boy's mouth shut so that he doesn't wake the sleeping boy. He cannot scream and wake the rest of the family. And then the man takes the corkscrew and violently begins stabbing the boy in the back and sides of his neck. He was easily stabbed over 100 times before I saw the death through that young boy's eyes. The vision was blurred with tears, but he was staring at the face of the killer. Unfortunately, I couldn't get full detail of the man's face because it was so dark and blurred. I was quiet for the next few days. I told Lucas I was just depressed about my parents, which I still was, but still, I couldn't shake this feeling. 2 months passed and Lucas was getting more and more suspicious about me. He was noticing a pattern when he saw that there had been murders on television. He noticed that every time I was up all night, there seemed to be a murder on the news. He finally decided to confront me.
Hey, you've been acting a lot weird these past couple of months before these all-nighters and the murders.
Are you suggesting that I'm the one killing these people?
Well, you do seem jittery, and you've been that way for the past few months, even more so on the nights of the killings.
Well, it wasn't me, okay? I swear. I don't have it in me to kill people, especially in the horrible way these people have been killed. see them. I've seen them all. The murders.
What do you mean you saw them?
Well, for the past few months, since the death of my parents, I've been seeing the murders the killer commits, only through his eyes.
That's terrible.
And that's not even the worst part. When the person dies and takes their final breath, I see through their eyes in that moment, and I see the killer. But I can never see his face.
Is there any way we can find out who this killer is?
Oh, I don't know. The next night, Lucas decides and insists on staying in the same room with me, just in case I witness another murder. I told him not to, and that I would be fine, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. I told him he didn't need to be doing this, but he just told me to shut up and that he wanted to help. I had to accept it, so I closed my eyes and drifted off into sleep. I wake and my eyes open slowly, but I'm not in the room anymore. I'm not even in Lucas's room, at least not mentally. The room was all stone, cracked, wet and dark, and there was an inconsistent dripping sound in the background as if something were dripping from multiple places. The sound echoed loud, and everything was so intense. The room was lit only by a dangling exposed light bulb that slowly swayed back and forth overhead. The man was sitting down on a leather hospital bed, cleaning off a knife with a cloth. I could see this because the man was looking straight into a dirty old mirror. He wore a mask, so I couldn't see who he was. The man began to speak, his voice muffled by the horrific-looking mask he wore.
I know you've been watching me, and I know you've seen me before.
He starts tapping the knife in the palm of his hand.
I see your friend watching you as you're seething in your sleep, or receiving this message. I will come in 3 days, and I will kill you, and Lucas, and his mother.
At this point, I can feel myself sweating outside of consciousness, the terror chilling me to the bone. This man knows where I am, and he's going to kill me in 3 days. The man was looking down, but looked back up again.
Oh, and by the way, there's no use in running, because wherever you go, I'll always find you, and I'll always follow you wherever you go, because we're tied together by this.
He shows me a birthmark that vaguely resembles an eyeball, and then it hits me. I have the same birthmark on my arm. He says one last thing.
Behold, I see many things, but none more so than death.
He takes off the mask, but my vision slowly fades back to the room before I can see the man's face. Lucas was standing over me. My only reply was, "We have to leave. Today." After explaining the dream to Lucas and telling his mother about everything that has gone on for the past several months, we pack the bare necessities and take a bus to the airport. We pack the bare necessities and take a bus to the airport. We don't even know where a safe place is, and we don't want to go to an island because that's basically a trap. But we don't know where the killer lives. We only know that he was in our town the day he killed my parents, and he's been in the area for a while because most of the killings are around here. I haven't told them that yet. But after the vision the previous night, I've been constantly hearing this man laughing at me, manically, telling me that I can't run, and I see flashes of sharp, bloody knives and implements of torture every few minutes. He's preparing. We board the plane. We're flying to Pennsylvania. Don't ask me why. I think it was because it was cheap, and Lucas's mum didn't make a lot of money. I assume that's why Lucas's hobby wasn't playing Xbox or video games. The flight took almost 6 hours, since we were coming from California on such a cheap ride. But it's not like we needed first-class seats. The man's voice reverberated through my head, giving me a headache, to the tune of a Ring Around the Rosie. I'm gonna catch you, I'm gonna kill you, stab wounds, we all bleed out. I tried to shake his voice from my head, but I couldn't, so I tried to play some music to drown him out. By the time we got to Pennsylvania, and with the time it took for scanning and bags before and after the flight, it was already the second day. The noises coming from the other end were becoming more and more terrifying, and the deaths were becoming swifter and more numerous. I could tell he was getting closer, but how could that be possible? As hours passed, a small chill began to slowly go up my spine, and the colder the chill, the closer he was. And the closer he was, the louder his voice running through my head became. I don't know how he was doing it, but he seemed to be coming so fast. I tried to go through what may be my last day, having what fun I could before I die. It was the night of the second day. Both Lucas and his mother were asleep in the hotel beds. I was sitting in the bathtub with the curtain closed, trying to maintain my sanity. I was shivering so badly it almost felt as if he was in the hotel, but I knew he wasn't. I could feel it. He was 1 or 2 towns over, max. I couldn't get my mind to think straight. I wasn't sure if I should call the cops. I tried to defend myself when the killer came. I just didn't know. My options were few, and the outcome was almost always certain, no matter my decision. I had at least 7 different murder visions that night, each with its own cute little message to me written in the blood of the innocent. I started to cry. I cried for hours, knowing that these would be my final moments. 11 o'clock. I was still sitting in the tub, shaking and rocking back and forth like a madman. I was running out of time. Why couldn't I just sleep and die in my sleep when he comes and kills me? Why can't I get him out of my head? The sound of the second hand on the clock in the bathroom grew even louder, and I was sweating so much that I was slipping in the tub. Suddenly the door opened. I jumped in shock only to find that it was Lucas. Hey, Lucas, I haven't told anyone this before, but I've never had the chance to love someone. I never got to hold that special person in my arms and tell them that I love them. And I've never heard someone tell me that they love me. Not even my parents.
Olivia is my best friend, and you're someone I could never let go out of my life. I couldn't imagine my life without you.
Do you really mean that?
Yes.
3 a.m. I'm so fucking terrified right now that I can't even move. Even blinking feels like lifting 10,000 pounds. The chill down my spine is almost painful, and there's a piercing ringing in my ears. Suddenly, silence. Not just normal silence. I mean, this silence was so quiet that there was no background noise, and not even the wind could be heard from outside. Then I hear a door slam on the first floor. I hear a quick, stifled scream, and the gushing of blood. Ah, he's just killed the receptionist. I'm able to hear very well what is going on near the killer at this point because of how close he is. Then I hear the footsteps ascending the stairs very slowly. He's taking care to place both feet on each step as he comes. But I could also hear the deep grinding sound of the metal blade of a knife along the wall as he moved up the stairs. Lucas had fallen asleep beside me. I didn't want to wake him. Hopefully, he'll die peacefully not knowing he was being attacked. The killer reached the second floor. I hear his breathing get heavy as he whispers silent chuckles into my head. At this point, the silence is so loud, sitting in this dim-lit bathroom with my best friend beside me waiting, just waiting to die. It's a terrible feeling. The clock ticks loudly in the background. He's halfway to the third floor. I heard the footsteps echo through the stairwell up into the third floor hallway. He reaches the top step and stops, and he quietly hums his little tune again into my head as he walks down the hall. I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna kill you, stab wins, we all bleed out. He walks in front of the door to our room. I hear the handle turn and the door slowly creak open. He passes the bathroom. Lucas's mum. I hear a struggle, then 5 stabs and gushing sounds. Then silence. A few seconds later, seconds that seemed like eternity, I hear the footsteps coming towards the bathroom. I hear the door handle turn, and at an uncomfortable volume I hear the door creak with a hideous groan. I hold my breath as the shower curtain pulls back slowly. I pull my arms around Lucas and begin to pray a short prayer, hoping that maybe it will help. But there he was, the killer. He looked disfigured beyond imagination. His skin was burned and torn all over. His mouth was warped into a crooked grin, as if someone just pulled it aside like rubber. And his eyes were dark, but they stared piercingly into my soul. In his hand, he held the dullest, most rusty meat cleaver I'd seen in my life. Fresh with the blood of the hotel worker and Lucas's mother, I could only assume he killed Lucas first. I was too paralysed to say or do anything. He decapitated him right in front of me. At least, he never knew what was coming. The half of my vision witnessed from the killer's eyes and half from Lucas. It wasn't fun. The killer turned to me, and he taped my mouth and covered it up with a few things, so no matter my struggle, no one would hear me. The pain was more than could be described. He started by cutting off my fingers and toes. He even cut off my ears. And then he started cutting my shins in half, and the centre of my forearms. The blood came out quickly, and in spurts it hit the ceiling with a splat. He cut me down till I was nothing but a torso with a head, crying tears of blood. He then took the cleaver and stuck it under my chin, and stabbed it up into my skull, splitting it in two. How am I telling you this story, you ask? Well, this is the story of how I murdered myself.